Alecia is leading a team to implement transformative initiatives that will shape the future of downtown, fostering vibrancy and creating sustainable value through innovative partnerships and strategic initiatives. And she's my former boss, and she's awesome. Come on up, Alecia.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else feel like they just need to yell preach and like start crying after each speech? Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to sit down. Okay, I'm just gonna move this. Okay, so first of all, it's amazing to be at an event that gives women a platform to talk about hard things. We're all family, right? I feel close now, and it's just really special to see that these conversations are getting, elevated. So when I was talking to Paisley about where we would hone in on when we were talking about, women's health and the intersection of our careers, I was like, okay, well, I think we need to talk about menopause. We need to talk about menopause. Because guess what? It's a huge blind spot in society. Like, we're not talking about it. And so she's like, okay, so I'm like, how long do we have? And she's like, you have 6 minutes. And I was like, hold my beer. So I'm super passionate about education. Quick plug, serve on the board for the Center for Sexuality, and they've been, around for 50 plus years supporting women in things like navigating issues around access to abortion in the 70s when it became legal, and gender, diversity in education and training today. So amazing organization. So let's set the stage. So a couple of years ago, I attended an International Women's Day event. And there was a woman who is the CEO of a major tech company in Alberta. And she stood on stage and she talked about some challenges that she was facing in leadership around midlife, and talked about health challenges, and talked about how she had to take a leave of absence with the support of her board. And two things struck me with that. One, I'd never been to an event where there was any type of reference to menopause, but two, that word was never used. So I think this speaks to the world we live in, one where menopause is still whispered with a shameful secret. And the result is that 1 in 2 women feel completely unprepared for this stage of their lives. And 38% feel alone. Why is that? Well, a couple of reasons, but one, because aging is seen as negative. And we become isolated at a time when we really need support the most. So here's the reality. Menopause intersects with a critical career stage. It typically happens between our 40s and our 50s, the exact age often when women are stepping into leadership positions. So if we want to move that needle on women in leadership, then we need to talk about what menopause is and how it affects organizations and individuals. So perimenopause, to get into the weeds just a little bit, because guess what? Not a lot of people know the details, is the phase leading up to menopause that lasts on average 4 years, but can go as long as a decade. So menopause is actually defined as the 12 consecutive months without a period, but during perimenopause, estrogen and progesterone are fluctuating, and since estrogen enters every single cell of a woman's body, it impacts a multitude of systems. So the symptoms are vast, and they can be severe in cases. So consider this. We've got endless resources on pregnancy and motherhood, right? Lots of information out there, and that's another talk. Those transitions in your career are not easy either, but not every woman goes through those phases. But 100% of women go through menopause. I think, consider this. I think that, let's talk about the numbers. So there's 5 million working women over the age of 40 in Canada. That's 1/4 of the workforce. And yet their needs around menopause have often been overlooked. The average woman in Canada will spend half her life in a menopausal state. Like you heard, half of our lives, ladies. So thanks to the significant decline in estrogen, we're also at higher risk for things like heart disease and osteoporosis. And yet, our symptoms are often trivialized. Society reduces them to what? Hot flashes, right? And guess what? In reality, they include heart palpitations, extreme fatigue, depression and anxiety, muscle and joint pain, insomnia, and cognitive issues. And let me tell you, I was just talking about this with someone here, the brain fog, it's real. And yes, I seriously did Google early onset dementia. Like, seriously. And, you know, one of the biggest career impacting symptoms, all of these things, of course, but that cognitive piece is a real challenge for many women. Imagine being a sharp, articulate professional, and suddenly your brain decides to blue screen. And it's frustrating, it's embarrassing, and it's real. Hence the notes today. Nothing says I'm ready for this important client presentation and forgetting the word spreadsheet and like mid-sentence having to call it like the rectangular math thing. Like, this is real for us. So when I started experiencing symptoms, I went to my doctor. Misdiagnosis, right? A year and a half later, when I finally found out what was going on, I started doing my own research. I started talking to friends, started talking to family, and turns out this is super common. And many doctors were misinformed by a now debunked study in the 80s that made them hesitant to provide, prescriptions on hormone replacement therapy and other treatments. So essentially, like an entire generation of medical professionals, they got the wrong memo. So it puts us in a difficult position. In the end, I found a clinic specializing in women's health. It's covered by Alberta Health Services. There are those services out there. Not that we would know. But my solution, it was, and it's, I don't know if you call it a solution, but the things that have helped me, that was a journey, that was an iteration. It's going to be different for every woman, but the key is to know the options. We have to have the information. So what can we do? So here's 3 things. 1, educate and advocate for yourself. So if you're under 40, learn about what is ahead for you, because many women are blindsided. But 2, if you have a doctor that isn't giving you the answers, you need to seek out experts who will support you. And there's some great resources out there. So Dr. Mary Claire Haber, big fan of her. She's done tons of research, subject matter expert, has great books. She did a podcast with Brene Brown, who doesn't love her? And she flags something really interesting though, in that for women, a problem in healthcare is that often they take something biological and they give it a psychological cause. Hence the misdiagnosis. So flag. 2, Menopause Work Canada. It's an amazing initiative by the Menopause Foundation of Canada. And they do study an initiative about promoting more employers to create supports within their organizations. So it's interesting to see the employers have taken note. And I would highly encourage you to check that out and talk about it within your own organizations. 2, normalize the conversation. It's really important to talk to friends, talk to family, a giant group of strangers, and because sharing the experiences, it really does reduce the stigma. Even the little conversations I had here today made me feel like a normal person. So normalizing the conversation. 3, challenge the stereotypes about aging, right? Really, we need to do that because women in their menopausal years contribute immense value, and they deserve our support, not silence. Menopause isn't something that women should grow and bear. There are treatments, there are lifestyle adjustments, there are workplace policies that can help, but we can't fix what we refuse to talk about. So let's start talking, because the more we know, the better we can do, not just for ourselves, but for all the women that come next. Thank you.